Hi, this is Joanne Davies, Spiritualist Medium and Tutor, and it's a pleasure to be back with you on my channel for mediumship and psychic development. And it's been a while, I've been having a break over the summer, so it's wonderful to be back with you here again today. And in today's video, I'd like to discuss the topic of whether or not we can actually order a spirit to come forward from the spirit world. So this is something I come up against quite often when I am working with members of the public who wish to connect with their loved ones who've passed to the spirit world. And I often find that a person will come with one particular loved one in their mind who they wish to communicate with. And it's a natural enough thing that we might expect that a mother who's just lost her son, or a husband who's just lost his wife, or whatever the situation might be, that you would expect that that might be the person that they wish to communicate with. And so it's very difficult then when they come along for a private sitting and the medium then is unable to actually dial that spirit, in a sense. When I'm training students, I often refer to it as dial a spirit. And people do naturally think that mediums just have this hotline to the spirit world, and that we can just call up whoever it is they want. And sadly, it doesn't always work. Now, there are many different belief systems about how a spiritualist medium should work. And I don't adhere to any particular dogma when it comes to how we should perform sittings and, the reasons behind why we do the things we do. Because I find that there are certain dogmas that are very restrictive in the way that they will allow their mediums to work. And sadly, that can be detrimental to that grieving person who's come for the sitting. So what I teach my students is that there are certain spirits where, if the conditions are right, if the energy between the sitter and the medium is right, and the energy between the medium and the spirit world is right, then there are certain spirits who we can just take our attention there and they're right there. And we can bring forward that person from the spirit world that that client wants. But there are also times where they really want their son, daughter, husband, wife, and we just cannot bring them forward because the spirit world are an intelligent world. And I personally don't believe that the spirit world are sitting around in the spirit world just waiting for a medium to switch their light on and say, hi, I'm here. If we look at the evidence that comes, for example, from near-death experience and stories about reincarnation, then we must accept that when we die, that we go on to another world, another reality, where we, for a time, have to reflect upon the life that we've lived here on earth. And that when we're in that other spirit reality or spirit world, as we tend to refer to it, we have to understand that we go there in order for our soul then to progress. And so looking at the life we lived here is part of that. But those souls also have work to do and jobs to do for their own progress and perhaps for all of humanity. And we could get into soul groups and all other concepts of the people that we're connected with while we're here on earth, i.e. our family, our friends, our colleagues. So, if we are part of soul groups, then when we die, we're reunited with members of that soul group. So when spirits die, they're not just hanging around twiddling their thumbs, waiting for a medium to phone them up and say, hi, are you there? So the spirit world is variable, and the physical reality that we live in is also variable. So when anyone comes for a mediumship sitting, there are major variables that we have to consider as to why some readings go extremely well and others not so much. And it can be down to the energies of the spirit world, that's one variable. The energies of the medium is another variable, and the energy of the person wanting the reading, the sitter, there is another variable. And then there is global energy as well, which is yet another variable to add into that mix. So the energy has to be right and has to be harmonious on the day that the person comes for the reading with whatever medium it is that they've chosen. And so we must realise that there are some spirits who will immediately resonate with the medium. And these spirits may also be desperate to communicate. So they are sitting waiting for the medium to switch on the light and say, "Hi, I'm here." But then there are other spirits who may be doing other things in the spirit world, and for whatever reason may be unable to communicate. And it's not that they don't love their loved one here on earth, and it's not that they don't want to communicate. It may just be that the circumstances on that particular day and time are not right for that medium, that spirit to communicate. And some mediums will disagree with me in this, and if you do disagree, that's fine. I can only teach you from the benefit of my own experience and opinion. But in the 12 years that I've been involved in spiritualism and I've been working as a medium, I know that there are times where, for whatever reason, the medium's consciousness is just unable to perceive certain spirits, where there are other spirits that they may perceive more easily. So energy and harmony could be one reason. That particular spirit may have other things to do. That could be another reason. It could also be that the medium is just unable to push their consciousness there. So the medium might be in a lazy way of working where they're happy to just bring forward the grannies and grandpas who've passed with cancer, stroke and heart attack. And the medium is unwilling to push their mind to other possibilities of younger people in the spirit world, or different methods and ways of dying. That could be another reason. Or we have to accept the fact that sometimes you just cannot dial them up. You cannot call up the dead because they have free will the same as we do. And so they may choose on that particular day to not communicate. There could be all sorts of other reasons. Sometimes in my personal belief system, I think that when a person comes for a reading, if there is something terrible happening in the family here on earth, the spirit world may step back, because it may be that if they come forward and communicate, that they might reveal something to the sitter that they're not supposed to know, or that the spirit world may well interfere in someone's fate. So I think that's another reason spirits sometimes step back. And I've had experiences just last week, as an example. A lady phoned me for a telephone reading, and I was unable to get any connection, any communication, any link at all from her spirit family. So I apologised and I offered the lady her money back and said, I was happy to recommend other mediums if she wished to try with someone else. And she then revealed to me that I had read her sister a year and a half ago, and her brother, one on the telephone and one face to face, and that both readings had went really well and her whole family had come through. So I explained to the lady and I said, I'm really sorry, but maybe today's just not the right day and there could be reasons. So I left it there. So then this morning I did a telephone reading for a lady, and the whole family came through, and a situation came through in that reading about the lady's brother who has been diagnosed with an illness. So at the end of the reading she said, "Thank you so much, I'm so glad you brought my mum and dad through and all my relatives, and you told me about my brother and about his illness." And she said, "You tried to read my sister-in-law last week and you couldn't read her." And I realised this was the same lady. And she said, "That's her husband, my brother that you're talking about, who's been diagnosed with the illness." So what that told me was that last week, when the lady wanted the reading from me, unbeknownst to me, her husband had just been diagnosed with an illness. So when I then tried to bring forward her spirit family, they were unwilling to come forward and communicate on that particular day. And her husband had literally found out the day before that he had a serious illness. So I think her family on that day chose to step back from me. They chose not to communicate, possibly because it may have affected her perception of his illness. It may have fueled rather than allayed her fears, or there could be many other variables that I just don't know. And yet today when I read her sister-in-law, the man's sister, they came through loud and clear, and it may be that the spirit world decided whatever they had to tell the sister today, she could pass on to the wife, but that for whatever reason I wasn't to communicate with the wife last week. So the spirit world are intelligent, they decide. And if you spend your time trying to dial up and force a communication with a spirit, then it won't work, because they have free will. And if they're ready, they're willing, they're available, the energies are right, the situation and the circumstances are right, then they'll communicate. And they will come and say what's necessary for the person here on the earth to hear. And if they don't want to and the circumstances are wrong, then they won't. So when I'm training students, sometimes I will train them to do who do you want. So to say to the sitter that they're working with, who do you want me to bring forward? And I train them to do that, and then to deliberately go there to the spirit world and ask for that spirit. Because it's good practice for developing mediums to try and do that. It helps to build your communication with the spirit world and to hone your skills. And it also helps you with your understanding of the fact that some spirits will and some spirits won't. And then it helps you as a student to realise that there are bigger reasons that we don't always know the answer to. Of course, if you're working in a Spiritualist National Union church and an SNU church platform, you should never do who do you want. You should never do dial a spirit, because that goes against SNU guidelines. And if you're a medium working in their church platforms, it's advisable to bring forward those spirits that naturally step forward into your mind and naturally are ready and willing to communicate. And I would only ever advise the who do you want situation in a training scenario when you're in development, or in a situation if you are doing a private sitting for someone and you know that after you've naturally given who's there, you've brought them forward, you've given evidence, and you realise that there's still someone that they're desperate to hear from. I would say in those circumstances you can then take your attention to spirit and say, please come forward. You could even say to the sitter, don't tell me anything about that person that you're desperate for. Just give me the relationship to you. And if they say it's my mother, you can then take your attention to spirit and say, is her mother here? Are you willing to communicate? Because it might be that you've just missed the mother in that first 20 minutes of the sitting while you've been talking about the father or whoever. So I hope that's given you some food for thought. I certainly expect some people to argue with me or not agree with me, and that's fine. And I'm happy to open up any of these videos that I'm doing for debate, for healthy debate, not for criticism that is unfair, but for healthy debate, because that is how developing mediums learn. So if you want a live Q&A and you want to ask me questions and communicate with me in a live situation, then please drop me a comment in the comment box, and I can most certainly arrange a live Q&A session to answer some more of your questions. But I'll leave those thoughts with you. I hope it's helpful. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.